The Galactic Council of United Species has existed for over 12,000 years. Its members consist of the 17 most advanced civilizations in the known universe, each with technology so sophisticated it would make a quantum computer look like an abacus with missing beads. They've mastered faster-than-light travel, perfected immortality treatments, and even figured out how to keep yogurt fresh past its expiration date. Truly, the pinnacle of evolution. At least, that's what they thought until humans showed up. Humanity stumbled onto the galactic stage like a drunk uncle at a wedding reception. Unexpected, slightly disheveled, and utterly baffling to everyone present. The Council had been monitoring Earth for centuries, watching humans evolve from club-wielding primates to smartphone-wielding primates, and had collectively decided that humans weren't quite ready for first contact. Then Jack Murphy accidentally changed everything by picking up an alien beacon that had crash-landed in his backyard in suburban Ohio, mistaking it for a fancy new Weber grill, and somehow activating its emergency distress signal while trying to cook bratwurst. "I still don't understand why you thought my quantum resonance transmitter was a cooking device," said Ambassador Zeltrax, an 8-foot-tall insectoid being with compound eyes that shimmered like opals. Jack, now serving as Earth's first diplomatic representative to the Council, shrugged in his ill-fitting ceremonial robe. It was round, had a lid, and there was a button. On Earth, that's either a grill or a doomsday device, and it looked too nice to be the latter. The Council chambers echoed with the clicking and whirring that passed for laughter among many of the species. Humans had quickly become the galaxy's favorite oddity, like an exotic pet that occasionally says something clever. They were classified as harmless bipedal curiosities in the official Council taxonomy, right between sentient gas clouds of Betelgeuse and telepathic coral of the Caspian Nebula. This classification amused Jack, who knew that back on Earth, humans had spent most of their history trying to murder each other over everything from land disputes to arguments about sports teams. But here in space, surrounded by beings who could disintegrate mountains with a thought, humanity seemed downright cuddly by comparison. Little did the Council know that this classification would soon become the galaxy's biggest administrative error, since they'd accidentally designated black holes as convenient trash disposal units. Proxima Station hung in space like a massive crystalline snowflake, its transparent corridors teeming with representatives from 100 different worlds. It was here, at the annual Galactic Peace Summit, that Jack Murphy would inadvertently change humanity's reputation forever. Jack was doing what humans do best at diplomatic functions, wandering around looking for free food, while trying to avoid conversations about his planet's embarrassing history. He had just discovered a buffet of what appeared to be living hors d'oeuvres that changed color based on the eater's mood, when he noticed something odd. A tall, cloaked figure was slipping through the crowd toward High Chancellor Morgov of the Draconian Empire. Nothing unusual there, Draconians were important folks. But the way the figure's hand kept drifting to a concealed pocket set off Jack's instincts, honed by years of riding the New York subway. What happened next was recorded by 17 different security cameras and would be studied by xenobiologists for decades. Jack, mouthful of color-changing canopies, stumbled forward and accidentally bumped into the cloaked figure, spilling his drink. "Whoops, sorry about that, pal. These artificial gravity fields, am I right? Never know which way is up." The collision caused the would-be assassin to drop a molecular disruptor pistol, capable of unraveling organic matter at the subatomic level. Before the weapon hit the ground, Jack had already snatched it mid-air with his free hand. "Hey, you dropped something," he said, holding up the weapon. "Weird-looking phone you've got here. Is this the new iPhone? The design gets crazier every year." Security drones swarmed, the assassin was apprehended, and High Chancellor Morgov was saved, all because Jack Murphy had spent his college years as a part-time bartender with quick hands and a habit of making awkward jokes in tense situations. Commander Vrextal of the Galactic Security Force, a reptilian being with metallic scales and eyes like burning coals, reviewed the security footage with growing concern. "Did you see that?" she hissed to her lieutenant. The human moved with precision that belies their clumsy appearance. He neutralized a Grade 3 assassin without spilling his beverage. Perhaps it was luck, suggested the lieutenant. Rexdal's tail lashed in disagreement. That was not luck, that was calculated. The way he played it off as clumsiness, classic predator behavior, appearing harmless until the moment of strike. When Jack was brought in for questioning, his explanation didn't help matters. Honestly, I just didn't want the guy to drop his phone, Jack said, scratching his head. Wait, it was a gun. Ha! Well, I used to catch bottles behind the bar at O'Malley's all the time. You develop a reflex. Rexdal's suspicion only deepened. What kind of species developed reflexes that could counter trained assassins? What was this bar training facility that humans casually mentioned? And why did Jack keep asking if the station had coffee when he'd already consumed 12 cups? As news of the incident spread, the various council species began viewing humans in a new light. The Arcturians started analyzing human physiology more closely. The Quantorians began monitoring Earth's primitive internet for signs of military strategy. And the Melvorians, a species of natural prey animals, simply tried to avoid being alone in elevators with humans. Jack remained oblivious to all of this, his main concern being whether the buffet would be restocked before the summit ended. Commander Vrexthal didn't get to her position by ignoring potential threats. After the Proxima Station incident, she launched a full investigation into humanity, assigning a team of the galaxy's premier xenobiologists, psychologists, and military strategists to the case. Their findings were disturbing, to say the least. Humans consume other life forms for energy, explained Dr. Zoltab, chief xenobiologist, his tentacles gesticulating wildly. Not just plants, but animals, sometimes while they're still partially alive. They call it rare steak. Vrexdal's scales bristled. Predatory behavior? Just as I suspected. It gets worse, continued Dr. Zoltab. They intentionally ingest neurotoxins for pleasure. One called caffeine stimulates their central nervous system, making them faster and more alert. Another, called alcohol, removes their inhibitions and fear responses. They drug themselves for combat, Vexful concluded grimly. Meanwhile, Jack Murphy had been assigned a scientific advisor from Earth to help navigate the complex biological and technical aspects of galactic diplomacy. Dr. Eleanor Ellie Wright was everything Jack wasn't. Methodical, detail-oriented, and actually read the briefing materials before meetings. Jack, did you tell the Arcturian ambassador that humans sometimes hold their breath underwater for fun? Ellie asked, reviewing notes from his last diplomatic meeting. Jack looked up from the alien device he'd been fiddling with. Yeah, why? Because they're water breathers who consider oxygen toxic. You basically told them humans play with poison for entertainment. Well, when you put it that way, it does sound a little weird, Jack admitted. What neither of them knew was that every interaction was being monitored by Vrexdal's team, who were building an increasingly terrifying profile of humanity. When Jack mentioned his killer workout at the gym, it was logged as confirmation of human combat training centers. When Ellie casually noted that humans had mapped their own genome, it was interpreted as humanity developing biological weapons tailored to their own DNA. And when Jack complained about his dead phone battery, 3 different species went into high alert, believing humans had developed portable energy weapons that could be rendered temporarily inert. The misunderstandings reached their peak during a routine medical examination. The council required all diplomatic representatives to undergo basic health assessments to prevent cross-species contamination. Your species can regenerate, asked the medical officer, a gelatinous being whose translucent body revealed swirling internal organs. I wouldn't go that far, replied Jack. We heal from cuts and bruises, sure. Broken bones mend. Nothing special. The medical officer's body pulsated in what might have been shock. Nothing special. Most species require medical intervention for tissue regeneration. You're saying humans do this automatically? Well, yeah, said Jack. Doesn't everybody? The medical report that reached Vrexdal's desk described humans as self-repairing biological entities with redundant organ systems capable of surviving significant tissue damage. Vrexdal called an emergency meeting of the Security Council. The evidence is clear, she announced to the assembled dignitaries. Humans are not the harmless curiosities we believed them to be. They are apex predators who have evolved to appear non-threatening, the perfect disguise for a species planning galactic conquest. In the back of the chamber, Jack was trying to figure out why his translator had suddenly started rendering every mention of human as potential death-bringer. The void swarm attacked without warning, emerging from the uncharted regions beyond the Oort cloud, billions of microscopic machines moving with a collective intelligence, consuming everything in their path and converting matter into more of themselves. Classic grey goo scenario, but on a galactic scale. The Council's most advanced civilizations deployed their defense systems immediately. The Arcturians used quantum disruption fields designed to unravel synthetic structures. The Draconians launched time displacement weapons that should have accelerated the swarm's entropy. The Quanturians attempted to trap the swarm in pocket dimensions. Nothing worked. The swarm adapted to each defense faster than new ones could be developed. Emergency sessions of the Council became increasingly desperate. Species that had been enemies for millennia now cooperated, throwing their most classified technologies into the fight with no success. 3 outer colony worlds had already gone silent. In a private chamber away from the main council hall, Vrextal made the suggestion no one wanted to hear. "We need the humans." High Chancellor Morgov's scales flared in alarm. "The Deathbringers? Are you mad? We've spent months establishing containment protocols." "Precisely," said Vrextal. "We've observed their capacity for violence, their adaptability, their inexplicable ability to function despite biological damage. The swarm is unlike anything we've faced. Perhaps we need a species unlike any in the Council." After heated debate, a delegation was sent to Jack and Ellie, who had been blissfully unaware of both the swarm and their species' new reputation. "Let me get this straight," said Jack, trying not to laugh. "You think humans are some kind of super predators, and now you want our help fighting microscopic robots?" "That is correct, Deathbringer," replied the Arcturian representative, maintaining a safe distance. Ellie, ever the scientist, was already reviewing the data on the swarm. "This is fascinating. The swarm appears to operate on simple recursive algorithms, complex behavior emerging from basic rules, like cellular automata, or like a virus," finished Jack, "or bacteria. Ellie, doesn't this sound like antimicrobial resistance?" Ellie's eyes widened. "You're right. The Council has been hitting the swarm with increasingly specific attacks, essentially training it to resist. On Earth, we learned long ago that sometimes the simplest approaches work best against adaptive threats." The Council representatives watched in confusion as the two humans became increasingly excited, speaking rapidly to each other in what the translators rendered as ruthless predatory strategy development. What the Council didn't understand was that Jack and Ellie weren't discussing advanced weapons or battle tactics. They were talking about soap and heat, and oddly enough alcohol, not for drinking this time. The plan was simple, which was precisely why the Council's greatest minds hadn't considered it. Complex problems often have complex solutions, but sometimes they have embarrassingly straightforward ones. "You want to do what?" asked Vrextal, her tail twitching in confusion. "Soap," repeated Jack. "Well, not exactly soap, but the principle is the same. The swarm functions by maintaining specific molecular bonds between its components, surfactants, like soap. Disrupt those bonds. And if that doesn't work," added Ellie, "we hit it with heat, lots of heat. The swarm adapts to specific frequencies and attack patterns, but it can't adapt to being really, really hot." The Council's scientists were skeptical, but with 3 more worlds now dark and the swarm approaching the Centauri system, they were out of options. What followed was perhaps the most ridiculous battle plan in galactic history. Council engineering teams, working from Ellie's specifications, retrofitted terraforming equipment to disperse enormous quantities of a specially formulated space soap directly into the approaching swarm. For backup, Jack had convinced the Draconians to repurpose their sun-harvesting technology to create what he kept referring to as a really big magnifying glass, capable of focusing stellar energy into a concentrated beam. As the Council species watched from what they considered a safe distance, 3 systems away, Humanity's plan was put into action. The space soap was deployed, followed immediately by the stellar heat beam. The results were immediate and spectacular. The swarm, which had adapted to quantum weapons and time displacement fields, had no defense against having its molecular bonds disrupted while simultaneously being superheated. It began to break apart, its adaptive algorithm unable to compensate for such fundamental attacks on its physical structure. Within 6 hours, the swarm threat was neutralized. The council chambers erupted in celebration, albeit celebration that carefully avoided getting too close to the two humans who had saved them. "I still don't understand," said High Chancellor Morgov to Vrextol. "How did they devise such a strategy so quickly?" "Because humans have been fighting microscopic enemies since before they developed written language," Vrextol replied grimly. "They call it hygiene, regular training to destroy invisible enemies. Their entire civilization is built on combating threats they cannot see." Meanwhile, Jack and Ellie were simply relieved their plan had worked. "I can't believe that actually paid off," Jack whispered to Ellie. "I was basically just remembering how my mom told me to wash my hands when I was a kid. And I was thinking about how we sterilize lab equipment," Ellie admitted. "Basic science." What they didn't realize was that every word was being recorded and analyzed by the council species, who interpreted basic science as foundational military doctrine and my mum as a reference to human genetic programming passed down through matriarchal command structures. At the victory celebration, the various species kept a respectful and fearful distance from the humans. When Jack accidentally dropped his drink, 3 security drones deployed instantly, assuming he was preparing to attack. "Is it just me," asked Jack, "or is everyone acting weird?" Ellie shrugged. "They're aliens. Weird is relative." 6 months after the defeat of the Void Swarm, the galaxy had changed in subtle but profound ways. Officially, humans were now classified as protected diplomatic partners rather than harmless bipedal curiosities. Unofficially, a new classification had been created in the Council's most secure databases. Terminus predators. Approach with extreme caution. Every Council species had developed their own protocols for interacting with humans. The Arcturians always traveled in groups of 3 when humans were present. The Draconians had genetically modified their diplomatic core to produce fewer stress pheromones. The Quanturians had developed emergency teleportation devices specifically designed to evacuate their representatives if a human moved too quickly. None of this was apparent to the growing human delegation, now expanded to include 30 representatives from Earth. They had noticed some quirks in alien behavior, the way conversation stopped when they entered rooms, how certain species seemed to always position themselves near exits, but chalked it up to normal cultural differences. "Did you see the new treaty draft?" Jack asked Ellie as they walked through the Council's orbital headquarters. "They've given Earth access to their medical database, clean energy technology, and agricultural advancements. They're practically throwing technology at us." "It is generous," Ellie agreed, "though I'm confused about the clause prohibiting humans from visiting certain systems without advance notice. That seems oddly specific." What they didn't know was that those systems contained species the Council deemed too vulnerable to human exposure. The technology transfers were essentially bribes to keep humanity contained and satisfied within their own solar system. Behind closed doors, the Council had established the Human Containment Committee, dedicated to monitoring and managing humanity's expansion into the galaxy. Vrextol, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Galactic Security, oversaw its operations. "The situation is stable for now," she reported to the committee. "Humans appear content with their current level of technology access. They remain unaware of their status." "And the contingency measures?" asked a Draconian representative. "In place, but unnecessary at present," replied Vrextol. "Our strategy of appeasement is working. As long as humans believe they are being respected and included, they have no reason to reveal their true nature." The true nature that, of course, didn't actually exist. Back on Earth, humanity was experiencing an unprecedented golden age. Disease was becoming a distant memory. Clean energy had replaced fossil fuels. Food production had soared. Nations that had been enemies for centuries were cooperating on space exploration and council relations. In his apartment at the council headquarters, Jack relaxed with a coffee, his 17th of the day, a fact that had been noted with alarm by 3 different security systems. You know what's funny, Ellie? A year ago, I was just a guy who couldn't figure out his new grill. Now I'm helping negotiate interstellar treaties. Ellie looked up from her research tablet. You know what's even funnier? I think some of these species are actually afraid of us. Jack laughed. Us? What's to fear? We're just getting started out here. Half our planet still thinks reality TV is the pinnacle of entertainment. Exactly, said Ellie. Maybe that's what scares them. We're like galactic toddlers, unpredictable and still learning how everything works. Jack raised his coffee mug in a toast. To humanity, stumbling upward since the dawn of time. Outside their window, the vast expanse of stars glittered. Somewhere out there, entire civilizations were developing new protocols, building new defenses, and rewriting their understanding of evolutionary theory, all because a man from Ohio had accidentally grilled some bratwurst on an alien beacon. And humanity, blissfully unaware of its fearsome reputation, continued to do what it had always done, muddle through, adapt on the fly, and occasionally save the day through a combination of dumb luck and simple solutions to complex problems. In the grand cosmic joke that was galactic politics, humanity had become the punchline no one saw coming, the apex predator that wasn't.